Hello friends, I am Rob, and this is going to be another COVID file as my voice recovers and I try to clear my head a little bit. This COVID stuff is a trip. But anyhow, I thought I would talk to you about the last 3 Star Wars characters that I ever made of any note. Again, most of my time was spent running games more so than playing. Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I did have some pretty long Star Wars games out there. Yeah, they were pretty good. I guess probably I would say, though, the greatest imbalance between running and playing is, with me having played more than I've run, is probably Star Wars. Sad to say, I don't have that many very memorable characters. The ones that I've gone over already, one of them only got played once, and 2 of them were kind of crackpot characters. But here's a couple other crackpot characters, because I apparently can't make serious characters. Cray Brom was probably about as serious as I ever got. This character, which I have 2 sheets of, because I keep remaking my sheets, this was a character named Jordel Cordain. Jordel Cordain was Captain Action. Captain Action was a holovid star, and apparently at some point I really caught on to the fact that there was a galaxy-wide holonet that was available to use to broadcast between planets, and entertainment, commerce, finance, information, all could go through the holonet. With the Empire coming, one of the smart things they did was to realize they needed to restrict the flow of information in order to rule the galaxy completely. So they privatized it. They mostly set most of it aside for the use by the Imperial governance, the military, the ISBN, all the other fun stuff. So the rest of the galaxy really kind of got separated into pockets much easier when they had a much harder time communicating between worlds, which lent itself to something of a little bit of a feudalism system, which of course was lorded over by the Imperial Moths. The sector governors would directly report to the Imperials, who reigned as their kings, effectively. So, prior to the Empire, though, there was a galaxy-wide holonet. So, Jordel Cordain was a holovid star. He was Captain Action, a beloved hero for, many worlds. I'm not going to say the entire galaxy knew of him, but he was known well enough that the Empire would not be happy to find out that he was sympathetic to the rebels, and the rebels wanted to use him as a recruiter. But to look at Captain Action, he was cut, he was ripped, he was ready to go. The reality? All of that cut, ripped physique of his was basically fat relocation. He wasn't not necessarily unfit, he just had everything squished into the right places to give him amazing 6-pack abs and a physique. The original character himself was standard hero strong of 3 dice, but he looked, actually he was even weaker than that, he was 2 dice plus 2, but he looked like he was a 4-die action hero. And eventually he did increase his strength because it was getting in the way of his actual performance, but he had a high level, look at his earlier character sheet. He was decently dexterous, 3D plus 1. Very knowledgeable, 3D plus 2. Very perceptive, 3D plus 2 with all the fun social skills that went along with that. Little under in terms of strength, although he appeared to be much stronger. Technical 2D, he was a technological idiot. And mechanics of 2D plus 2. Yeah, he did end up getting a few skills along the way there. He did. But he was mostly interesting because he was a complete fraud. He was not Captain Action, and he was a person who was relatively ill-suited for the action scene of being an underground rebel guerrilla. But in the end, he survived. He did well. He was the face of the group most of the time, and he acted with kind of a cocky swagger that was not common in my characters that I had played. He was a reach for me to play this character because I didn't usually play face characters with that kind of a personality. And, well, I can't relate any specific things that we did. Our scenarios, involved shooting stormtroopers, and I think we got into ships a little bit. But for the most part, we were in a freighter, and we had a smuggler. The smuggler kept us alive. The skill that I ended up learning to help out the group was Starship Gunnery. I did shoot the little gun. So that was really about it. Again, it kind of makes me sad that I can't remember any of the stories, but you have to remember. 96. That's 20-some years ago. 25 years? Yeah. Almost 26 years ago. So, it's probably fairly understandable why I don't remember all of these things all that well. We played a lot of games back then, and while some of my greatest characters had some very impressionable things, I'm glad that I can remember that Jordel Cordain and some of his shenanigans, but I just remember him as a person more so than the individual deeds that he is so famous for. Another character that I have, I can't find his character sheet. It did not go into the vault box, which makes me a little sad. And he was only written on loose leaf paper. He was not a character who lived very long, but he did have something memorable that he did. He was an alien of my own creation. He was a Graxian forest wraith. He was a primitive, and he was like a little bit taller than an Ewok, but leaner, with long dexterous fingers and a soft gray and black fur. They blended into their shadowy forest underbelly, and they were intelligent enough to be sentient, but they weren't technologically advanced. It just happened that a spaceport got put up on their home world, and they picked up things quickly. They weren't very strong, but they were clever and very nimble. So I had high dexterity, very low technical, fairly low mechanical, knowledge. He was pretty sheltered, but he had some strength skills, and he had dexterity, and he had perceptions going for him. So the thing that I remember about him, and by the way, his name, I really wanted to move away from having a name that could be English-sized, put into a proper tongue. Like C-3PO, for instance. It's just letters and numbers, right? But if you ever see how people actually spell it out in some things, it's not C-3-P-O, it's S-E-E-T-H-R-E-E-P-P-O. P-E-O-O? And they phonetically spell it out. More so. This character's name was T-E Fut Fut Slapish. Just bursts of sounds. That's what I wanted his language to be. And as far as communicating, it was tough. But he did learn Pidgin Galactic Standard, so it was okay. But I said he was notable for one thing. He was curious, and he thought of himself as a warrior. He had little big man syndrome. He thought he was tough enough he could take on anything the galaxy threw at him. Until our group met up, we were in the Outer Rim, and in the Outer Rim sourcebook there is a nemesis for your group. He is Inquisitor Tremaine, somebody that Vader sends out into the Outer Rim to hunt down Jedi. And he is tough. He is himself more than capable of taking on an entire group at a time. His skills are that good. And he's trained in dark side force powers. He's not a Sith. Vader was clever not to call him his apprentice, but he is trained as an Inquisitor to go and hunt down Jedi. He has a lightsaber, and it's red. He has several scary force powers. So when we were doing some anti-Imperial action in the Outer Rim, we opened a door, and there he is. We'd heard about him, we had seen him from a distance, and now he's in the room with us. We tried fighting him, but here's the fun thing. You can try to shoot him, and even if you use his force point to make sure that you can hit him, he has the ability to absorb blaster fire. On top of being a tough son of a gun anyhow, he has cybernetic replacement, so he's tough. But yeah, if you shoot him, he can absorb it. And he's got enough force points that he can spend several rounds just juiced up on the force. So he is able to absorb blaster fire from the whole group if it comes to that. Or he can dodge and make your life pretty difficult anyhow. And then if he gets close to you with that lightsaber, messy. Very messy. So he's more than a challenge for your bumbling starting Jedis, that's for sure. So we fan out, and there's pew, 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 blaster fire. Everybody's burning force points. Everybody is firing everything they've got at him. He is absorbing everything. I think he got stunned. But he had a counter for just about everything. Except for poor little T.E. Little T.E. used a spear. Now, you'd think that's laughable. He's using a primitive spear against a Dark Jedi. Well, here's the thing. He was worried about defending against all these other attacks. He's not worried about this little 4-foot-tall, scrawny primitive with a spear. But I spent a force point, so my stats doubled. So I threw my spear at him. First of all, he couldn't block it. Because again, his dice pools were so broken up, taking care of everything else. So he thought, no problem. And then, the exploding critical. I dished out a frightening amount of damage with that spear. Maximum damage. Pretty much. I think I rolled 6s on all my dice. And just skewered him. Went through his armor, which was laughable enough. He had nice armor. Threw him and out the other side. Horribly injuring him. Did not kill him. Horribly injured him. In response, the next round he uses Force Crush, or I think it was called Incapacitate Kill, to squeeze poor little T.E.'s brains. Now, he did not kill T.E. He incapacitated him using the Force, but he did not quite kill him. I think I spent enough character points to stop him from dying. But it was a near thing. He almost died. And they drove away Tremaine. He got away, as a classic villain should. With his spear through him. He even took his spear, jerk. But after that fight, T.E. retired, basically. He was fun for a little bit, but he did his great act. And after that, he was left with, damage. And not something you could just go into a med bay for. I'm like, okay, this poor little guy. I had my fun with him as a primitive and everything, but I'm not really helping the group much in most other things, so I switched to make a character that could pull his own weight. But T was fun, and I could remember he had that going for him. Could the game have accommodated T.E. so that I could have kept playing him? If a group can have a kid, or, yeah, you can have a kid in the game. They're not taken seriously, but there's nothing stopping you from arming the kid, and, oh god, things can get scary. You can have an Ewok. There's a number of primitives that are in the game. So, yeah, he could have worked in a system that, did something with that, but by and large, no, there was far more that I could do with playing a creature that was a bit more wise to the galaxy and, just more potent in most other ways. So I switched. Can't tell you what I switched to, though. I've got a whole bunch of characters that have no emotional content to them. They are complete blank slates to me. So they could have been something I switched out to TE from, but I can't tell you that for sure. And I really wish that I had done a better job of archiving my earlier days. But again, if I can't remember those circumstances now, I don't know if those sessions were necessarily worth recording all that much. So, the final character, and this is basically my last word as player characters for Star Wars, was my character for the D20 Star Wars, Lauren Savath. Now, Lauren Savath was my XP in the Star Wars Galaxies MMORPG, and he came directly from playing this character. Lauren was a Jedi, and again, if you were playing the D20 system, you could start out as a Jedi. A first-level Jedi was not unstoppable. They had some serious shoes to grow into, but they were pretty cool. We were playing kind of an experimental game where everybody was a Jedi, and we were playing in the prequels. So, Clone War. Only one player wasn't going with this, and he wanted to be a clone trooper instead, attached to our group. I found out this wasn't a very good idea. Not that the player couldn't play a clone trooper. He could play it, probably not real believably as a clone trooper, but, as we have learned from various cartoons and such, the clone troopers had some individuality, so he was playing as one who was a deviant away from the rest of the others. And a specialist, I believe a heavy weapon specialist. A bodyguard of ours? I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. But the rest of us were all Jedis. My Jedi, most of the Jedis were Guardians. The typical Jedi. I have a lightsaber, therefore I will do the Jediing things. My Jedi was a consular. He was trusted for his wisdom more so than his lightsabering skills. And his lightsabering skills were only okay. Let's just say I didn't relish getting into lightsaber duels. That really wasn't where my specialties lie. And his force skills bore that out. Yes, I could use the lightsaber and I could do lightsaber combat, but it's rare when I wanted to. My character wanted to rely on words and use the Force in non-combative ways more so than get right into the mix. Also, he was, again, pretty lily-white. Never really... As far as the temptation of the dark side, when you have everybody being a Jedi, it's hard to individually put those temptations into place. Lauren really didn't have a great number of temptations for him to go dark side. He did have some deviant ideas from the Jedi, though, that got him into trouble. And there was one... Okay, first of all, people might be interested in the build of this. This was 2nd edition D20 system Star Wars, so yeah, that first book was not so good. But the second, as a Jedi consular, I had access to a variety of useful Force skills and powers. And because I don't have my reading glasses on me, I'm probably not going to be able to go into those in detail. One thing that was cool about them is we got these cool custom character sheets somebody found online, which looked really neat. So, I've had all the useful information. Tell you what, I'm going to cut for just a second, and I will be right back with glasses so I can give you more information about my character. Alright, back again. Okay. My Jedi had he had a lightsaber, yay. He was not incredibly good with it. I only had, I think, a +3 to hit. But as a lightsaber, it still hit like a ton of bricks if I could connect with it. 2d8 +1 damage, not too bad. The two people that I was... Oh, God, this group. We had Dax, who was another Jedi, played by my friend Vince, and Arrowwook, who was a Wookiee Jedi. And that was scary enough. So I didn't have to be all that brilliant with fighting, honestly. They took up most of the slack for me. Okay, my 4 skills. He had Battle Mind, which is your basic ability you put up when you get ready to pull a lightsaber so you can sense threats and, you know, do all the fun stuff. Empathy. I could... Oh, use with Battle Mind to read minds. Enhance my abilities. I had Force Defense to increase my defensive skills if I wanted to invest some of my energy into that. Force Stealth. Friendship. Yes. Didn't use that very often. Heal Self. Enhance Senses. Far Seeing. So imagine different possibilities. C-Force. And Telepathy. This is an earlier character. Our ship was the Midnight Star. And for the most part, we had a pretty good time with this game. Now, eventually, prestige classes, right? My character did eventually get a prestige class. He got Healer. And Healer gave him some really nifty abilities, as it would turn out. Nope, I take it back. That's a different character. So, as we were playing these characters, prestige classes, right? D20, that was something that was in there. Didn't really take that, because I was gearing up for something that could have been truly interesting. But Executive Order 66 came out. The clones turned, and the Jedi started to get hunted. This was the story that the Game Master wanted to do all along. Not necessarily a Clone War story, a story about how we were going to deal with being hunted in the fall of the Jedi. So my character had already had some issues with the Jedi Masters, in that I was considered fine to be a Padawan, but I kept asking uncomfortable questions. Things like, if the Jedi are against the accidental or unfortunate termination of life, and there's stun technology out there, why haven't we made a stun lightsaber? I mean, we have training lightsabers that generally don't kill anybody, so why don't we use those instead of the lightsabers that kill people? Or have a stun setting. Try to incorporate that into our lightsabers so that we have a choice. If we ignite the sabers, we can still defend ourselves, but we don't necessarily have to kill an opponent. It's against the way of the teachings. The dogma of the Jedi says no. You have to maintain the threat to properly punish a person who would attack you, and that it's necessary to have control over life and death. There's, various things. So there was that. The other thing was, during an early mission, my character ended up with a blaster pistol. Now, a Jedi with a blaster pistol sounds ridiculous, and it was. But remember, my Jedi is a consular, and I'm pretty darn dexterous. So I'm not getting huge bonuses to hit with my lightsabers, but about the same bonus to hit with this blaster pistol. And the blaster pistol does have a stun setting. One shot, you're out of the fight. I don't care how tough you are. Not a great chance, admittedly. Blaster stun rounds weren't great, but I actually had pretty good success with it. So I used the blaster pistol more so than using my lightsaber. And who knows, it did work pretty well. So the end of the mission came back, and I, showed our master that we were apprenticed to. I'm like, hey, I used this, and this worked pretty darn well for me. And he went, cut it in two. That's not according to the Jedi teaching. We do not run around with blaster pistols. Our weapon is the lightsaber. That is what we are known for. That is effectively a falsehood. Why? It's a clumsy weapon. We demonstrate by our skills that we are superior warriors, and therefore people aren't going to be tempted to draw blasters on us if they know we're Jedi. So going down to meet them at their level makes you no better than them. Okay, it just seemed like a pretty useful tool that helped us out. Can shoot things farther than I can reach with my lightsaber, and nope, no getting around it. I was in the doghouse. And despite the fact that I was doing this for all the right reasons, well, the Jedi Order fell apart. Now there was nobody to tell me that I could not use my blaster pistol. And I found some blaster weapons, I believe, down the road. And I veered away from the Jedi training to become a scoundrel. For a couple of reasons. Number one, the scoundrel has some useful skills for getting by in the galaxy that the Jedi just don't. That's just a fact. The Jedi themselves can kind of get by if the system supports them. If you remember Obi-Wan Kenobi getting by pretty well through the underworld because he's an investigator. He knows people, he has contacts, he's comfortable. And with his various mind manipulating abilities, he can be a jungle in that, a lion or tiger in that jungle. Some COVID brain. But your average Jedi doesn't have social skills. That's not really what they're for. And even as a consular, no, actually I was a guardian. It's been a while since I've seen this. I'm thinking of a different character. But even as a guardian, I had very few interpersonal skills. And it turns out that if you are running around in a galaxy that is not bending over backwards to support you, having those skills can be real handy. Also, it didn't hurt that my character got to be a pilot. Put a lot of ranks in piloting, and with his dexterity, he was awfully good. So he was the pilot for our group. And also got very good as a slicer. Very high computer use. But that's basically what... and again, too, this is my best example of why I think builds are often hooey. When you have this great plan for how your character is going to lay out, and you don't have the prompts through your character's experiences to follow that path exactly, most people who are into builds will doggedly stick to the plan because that's what's going to make them the most powerful. That's what's going to get them that special ability they're shooting for or something. I didn't plan on becoming a scoundrel with this character. It just was the organic way that opened up for my character to do that. So that's basically what happened with Lauren, and he is still one of my favorite characters that I ever came up with in any role-playing game, because there's a lot of me that went into Lauren, and we had a lot of really tense encounters along the way, especially when we weren't advertising that we were the Jedi, but those lightsabers still kept coming out, didn't they? They certainly did. Arrowwook, by the way, the Wookiee who was with us, bright red fur. So he's this huge, bright red Wookiee. Yeah. That wasn't hard to hide at all, was it? Ah, okay. I found the character I was originally thinking of that I've apparently confused a little bit. This was Aaron Ken Vistari. Aaron Ken Vistari was a Jedi consular. A lot of the initial story that I had for Lauren was actually Aaron. Yeah, because Lauren certainly wasn't Lily White. In the end, he did a bunch of things that the Jedis weren't real happy with. Aaron Ken was also in a Clone Wars scenario, but fact, I might have the party here. I don't always fill in all the details that I wish I had in my character sheets. That is one of the things that vexes me. Yeah, no real details. Sadness. But Aaron Ken was absolutely lily white. He did everything right and according to the Jedi Code all the way, and he eventually, after being a Jedi Consular, how was he with that lightsaber? Terrible. Ooh, a big +1 attack bonus. Oh, that was at level 1, but yeah. I should have had a +2. I had a dexterity of... okay. I probably cheated myself a little bit, because he was much more dexterous than he was strong. But by the time he got up to being 6th level, 3rd level Consular, 3rd level Healer, his lightsaber skills were still pitiful compared to the Guardians that were in the group. This was the all Jedi party. And one of the things that made him pretty cool, he had good wisdom and intelligence. He was really high stats on compared to what I usually roll. And with him, he ended up getting some specialized force powers because he was so lily white. His ability to heal wounds was tremendous. The Guardians would come back to me, and I would just go, okay, that's going to be better, that's going to be better, that's going to be better, that's going to be better. And I could heal grievous wounds. But the other thing that I got, that I was really looking for, was the ability to directly take and channel the Force against Dark Force. So he had an ability called Force Light. And I remember 2 major things about this character. Number 1, we met up with a big bad evil guy fairly early on. And we were like, okay, hey, we're Padawans, but we are, we've got to take this guy down. He's pretty nasty stuff. And so he just knocks away one of the Guardians, the better of the one who dual wielded, and so there was just the 2 of us. There's the guy who is an absolute beast, incredibly strong, powerful. I believe that was run by my friend Roger. And then there was me. And as a consular, I'm like holding my lightsaber out in front of me, but it's mostly just to defend myself with, not to attack. And he's like taunting us. He's like, so, you could just give up, and I'll train you to really be able to use the Force. You've been pitted up against me as just a sacrifice. You're just going to die. And I can feel how scared you are. You know that your time is... I could take your lives like that. And my character stepped up and said, search me if you will. You'll find not one iota of fear upon me. You can do nothing but return me to the Force, where I shall become even stronger. And truly believed it. This was, again, one of those fun deadpan things where it's like, yeah, go ahead and make a roll. Okay, I'll roll. Yeah, I made it. My character's not afraid at all. Even though I can't fight him effectively, he's not going to get anything out of me as far as fear. I will stand there. I will use the skills that I have if I need to. And fortunately, I didn't need to. There was some intervention. He got knocked away and fled, and stuff happened. I never even had to swing my lightsaber at him, I don't believe. Which, ooh, +2 to hit. Yay. But I think we ended up with one of his lightsabers after that fight. I didn't take it. Eventually, he made his own lightsaber. He used a yellow crystal and had standard lightsaber. Very traditional. But eventually, at one point, the thing that made him memorable was we ended up in a dark side crypt. You know, it's amazing how rare these things must be, but you always keep finding them. You follow any series long enough, they always find some hidden fallen Jedi temple or some dark side crypt or some Mandalorian psychopath that was kept in deep freeze. Some remnants of the rest of the universe will always come crashing down on any Star Wars story. It can't be helped. And we found a holocron, those storage devices for the Jedi's knowledge, but the Jedi aren't the only ones who know how to make those. The Sith knew how to make those too. So we found a Dark Force holocron. And, you know, we all were basically, we're not doing anything with that. And there was like, well, we should take it back. And my character's like, we shouldn't take it back. But it could be studied. Do you think there's anything of any value in there to study? There could be some history in there? Sure. But there's some genuinely twisted spirits that are going to be locked in there or preserved that can, at the best, have a disruptive effect or maybe even a corrupting effect on those who study it. This thing should be destroyed. And as it turned out, there was a really powerful Dark Force spirit there. And he came out and he messed with us. And the Guardians were fighting his phantasms and stuff like that. And I'm like, I know what you are. I may be really young, but I've been trained for you. Force Light. And for whatever reason, I told the Game Master that I was taking this ability. Which is, again, completely useless to anybody unless you're dealing with Dark Force spirits, Dark Force presences. You can use it to dazzle a Darksider, but that's about it. It's really not a very good offensive power, except it perfectly matched that situation. Because not only, you know, if you bested this spirit, it would go dormant. No. This exorcised Darkside spirits. Gone. You're scrubbed out of the Force here. Your stain is removed. This is doing it the right way. And at only 6th level, my character is going in a battle of wills against this ancient Sith warrior. And I won. I did. I had no vitality left by the time it was done. I was sapped out. But I beat him. I completely exorcised him. The best possible scenario. And, yeah, we broke the holocron. We cleansed that place of the blight. We were able to send on to our masters that we had succeeded, and it was awesome. That game might have been really interesting if the DM hadn't flaked on us. Very unfortunate things happened at the end of that campaign. But that character was a lot of fun. And I don't know why I keep transposing the memories of that character in with Lauren. I think, I really do kind of think Aaron Ken was where Lauren was intending to go, despite the fact that he was a Guardian. That was a kind of a choice that I made because of the way the D20 system was, the group that we were composed of, and things like that. It just kind of made sense to be a Guardian for that campaign, but when everybody was being a Jedi, because now that I remember, Lauren's group wasn't entirely made out of Jedi. Aaron Ken's was completely made out of Jedi. And one clone trooper. That poor clone trooper, by the way. When you keep throwing things to challenge Jedi in a Star Wars game, having one person running around as the clone trooper sucked for him. There were too many situations where he had to just go, okay, let's call the Jedi because I can't deal with this. Which sucked because his character was actually really good. He would have fit in any other group, no problem. He did make a couple of things easier for us. It was nice having him there, but, you know, in most of the big fights, there were far too many situations where he was just like, what am I going to do? You know, there's nothing left for me to do. I've got the best gear I can get. I got my best armor I can get, and I'm fighting and dealing with all of this Force stuff. I mean, yeah, the DM or the Game Master would, you know, trickle in some standard foes for him to trounce because he was really good. But when it came to the Force stuff, he was like, okay, I'll try shooting at him, but pew, 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 pew. Now, this would have been a good case for the Game Master to look at that and go, he needs some help. Let's get him some high-tech gear, some R&D stuff. That's what I would do, because what do I deal with a situation with imbalance? I throw more magical items at you. So, yeah, I would have given him some new cool stuff to give him some new abilities as an equalizer, but... And it's not like the Star Wars universe didn't have things like that to contend with the same issues of what do you do with Jedi? There were materials that could be made into things like armor and weapons that could actually block lightsabers. I believe it's called cortosis. And if you had Cortosis sword, you could parry a lightsaber. If you had Cortosis armor, it would protect you. Not completely. It's not like it bounced it off. There was also another substance that if a lightsaber beam hit it, it would disrupt the power and shut your lightsaber off for a bit, which could really suck. I can't remember what that substance is at the moment. I'm not that incredibly far into the Star Wars, and again, my brains aren't working so well today, but there are options out there is what I'm saying. So that a properly experienced soldier, like this clone trooper, should have had some things that would have worked out and made his time with us a bit more fun. But that's just not how it went. So, all in all, though, I really do like the Star Wars universe. As a matter of fact, the next full campaign game that I'm going to run after the Red Star Rising, I think is going to be the Star Wars, the role-playing game, the West End Games D6 system, because, well, I've got all these wonderful books here, for one thing. For the second thing, I honestly do like the build system for it better than the D20 system, even though I do have the D20 books too, and I could run that. I've heard a lot of good things about the Fantasy Flight Games their Star Wars games. Edge of the Empire, Scum and Villainy? No, it's a different game. But they sound really cool. I don't want to make my players buy in getting all new dice at this point. That's something we definitely might want to look into, though, because my group that I'm doing Red Star Rising with is very much into narrative games. They seem to really like and enjoy those. And the Star Wars game is about simulation, more so than narration. Although it got a lot more narrative in the second edition, with the introduction of the Wild Die, but even that, still not truly narrative. It's more a simulation game, and a pretty good one at that. So, but that's basically my Star Wars past. Now in these videos, 3 that I've covered with my characters, those are all the characters that I have run. I do have other Star Wars stories, of course, involving characters that other people have played, in other words, ones that I ran for other folks, and I think a few pretty decent ones there too, but that's, as a good friend of mine says, that's a tale still in the telling. So until next time, I'm Rob, thanks for joining me, and this has been another COVID case. I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure, because I'm still not at 100%, and it still may be a few days before my schedule returns to normalcy. So until that time, thank you very much, and farewell.